We are live.
All right, another episode of Denmark and Marsh. I'm Dylan Denmark. That is Graham Marsh back at his home studio. I'm at the 1010XL headquarters on this Tuesday morning on the early National Signing Day Eve. But that hasn't stopped the Florida Gators from getting a couple commits already. They've already flipped 11 guys and another one yesterday. Somebody that we haven't even been talking about, really. I kind of thought it was a done deal, him going to Miami. Drake Stubbs, the Mandarin safety, he's a 4-star. He's one of the sites. He's a 5-star. Really good player, a player that we know. Plays on the same team, if you don't know already. With he plays with Tremel Jones and Jamie French at Mandarin High School, and the Florida Gators were able to flip him from the University of Miami. And I mean, just momentum keeps going forward, Graham. I mean, not even a month ago, this team was ranked outside of the top 50 in recruiting, and now they're in the top 10 in most recruiting websites. The one I look at most, more than others, is the 247. Florida's ranked 10th. And the only question now moving forward is, are they going to continue this Jacksonville pipeline and are they going to get Solomon Thomas from FSU, and are they going to get the off chance of getting Jamie French from Texas?
And they're going to hang on to the guys that are in class. All the recent flips, you'd have to imagine they're going to be a lock to go to Florida because they all just flipped. But like I know Nashawn Montgomery has been flirting with Louisville and Alabama and where he might end up. Most people think he'll ultimately sign with the Gators, but he's been kind of the main 4 or 5-star guy that's been a threat to potentially go away. But for the most part, there hasn't been too much smoke about any other commits leaving. You think about, the 2 top guys in the class for the most part that have been here for a while are Ben Hanks and Vernell Brown, and their legacies for the Gators. So you'd have to imagine they're going to ultimately sign with Florida. Solomon Thomas and Jamie French with the local flavor. I tend to think today, with signing day being tomorrow, that Solomon Thomas is probably going to sign with LSU tomorrow with everything that I've heard, but I don't think Florida's ruled out by any means. What's interesting with Solomon Thomas is I do think the one school that is ruled out is the school he's committed to. At this point, just based on, I don't have some crazy insider knowledge or anything like that. I'm not a recruiting insider, but just on, kind of looking through Twitter and what the people that are recruiting insiders are saying and sort of just what they're hearing, it feels like LSU has the best chance for Solomon Thomas. Florida has the second best chance, and Florida State has the third, which is crazy because that's who he's been committed to for forever. But I guess when you look at what FSU's been on the field and all the recruits jumping ship, I guess it's not that crazy. Jamie French, I would be pretty shocked at this point if he ends up a Gator, but I think if anyone's going to flip him from Texas, it would be the Gators.
Yeah, and I kind of wanted to hit on this. Everybody's talking about, and yes, Billy does deserve credit for what he's done on the recruiting to the last week or so. I wonder how much of this has to do with the NIL. I mean, Drake Stubbs was committed to USC for a little bit of time. Then he committed to Miami, I believe, in the summer, if I'm not mistaken, like sometime between June and July. I understand Miami, they weren't looking as well as they did in the beginning of the season. Florida's looked really, really good in the last month. But I wonder, I don't think you're going to flip a kid from Miami to Florida if, one, you can't match the money that Miami is giving them, or two, Florida giving more money than Miami. So I mean, that's part of the new gig that we are within recruiting. If this were 10 years ago, it'd be what amazing job this Napier staff has done, and you would just say that and move on. Now it's okay. How much does your collective have? How much is the collective going to give to these players? We've heard for the last month that they are going to spend quite a bit of money. I wonder, how much the NIL it has an effect with these guys committing to the team.
A big one, a lot. We've heard from a lot of people that the money that boosters made for Billy Napier's buyout are now being spent on recruits, and you'd have to imagine transfer portal guys. Here in a couple days after signing day opens up, and when we really start to look towards the portal in terms of talent acquisition. I mean, look, there's no way there's not significant finances involved flipping 11 guys. And what was it? It's been like 2 weeks or
16
3 weeks.
days now. 16
I
days now.
mean, like
And 3 from
Billy,
FSU.
listen. Billy Napier's a good recruiter. He's proven that his staff can recruit. They do a good job. They got the new facility now, which they didn't have back in the Mullen years. They've had the new facility for a few years now. It ain't that nice, right? Well, like there's, I would have to imagine that this isn't public knowledge yet. It won't be for a while probably, but I would have to imagine that Florida Victorious is writing a couple of checks to some of these guys to help persuade them and help make that flip, help make them pull the trigger on that flip a little bit faster. I mean, there were guys I wasn't even expecting them to be involved in, like the defensive end for Penn State that they got a couple days ago, and I mean, it's crazy, man. Like, have you ever seen a recruiting class do this?
No,
It's crazy.
not that I can remember.
I mean, I would have to see in the history of recruiting. Obviously, like we've been saying, NIL plays a huge factor in this, but I would have to see in the history of recruiting how often a team has gone from in the 50s, less than a month before early signing day, to being a top 10 class when signing day actually happens. I mean, that's unbelievable. You have to imagine, there's some teams right around 10 that are going to get some guys, and like we said, Florida's got to make sure they hang on to everybody in their class and hopefully get a few more as signing day occurs throughout the day tomorrow. So it's not a done deal yet that Florida in the 247 composite, like you talked about, will be in the top 10, but there's certainly a very, very good chance now. And before the LSU game kicked off, when they were in the 50s, you never would have thought that. You would have thought, man, this signing class is dead and gone. It's lost, and Florida's just going to have to pray they can get everybody they can in the portal. But that's not the case anymore. Now you have a really good signing class to feel excited about.
So now this is how this calendar works for the month of December. Early signing day starts tomorrow, and it's for 3 days. It's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It'll close, I guess, Friday night at around 5-6 o'clock. So any of the high school guys, the seniors, or if a junior wants to reclassify and they want to early enrollee and be in classes in January, they got to do it within the next 3 days. Make that decision. Your bowl game gets announced on Sunday. I've seen an update. Brett McMurphy put out an article on the Action Network yesterday that Florida's projected to play Iowa in the ReliaQuest Bowl. So you go from playing the big Gasparilla Bowl in Tampa to now the ReliaQuest Bowl, which has been a massive improvement for bowl names. ReliaQuest. I have no idea what even that is. Do you have any idea what that is? ReliaQuest. See, whatever. Doesn't even matter. Then and then the day after the bowl game's announced, the transfer portal window opens from December 9th all the way to December 28th. So that's what you're looking at. Obviously, the here and now, I'm only really worried about early national signing day and who Florida can get in the high school ranks. Florida's got, I believe, 13 guys committed so far for this class. One of them, Drake Stubbs, is the main guy so far, and then we'll see what Florida's able to do. I want to read Rob's comment. I thought we were going all over the next 2 years. Rob S says, I thought we were going all in for the next 2 years and going real portal heavy. Do you guys think that with all high school recruits that narrative has changed? No. I still think you still want to get a lot of guys in high school, and I think you kind of take the approach of like the NFL. You build your roster through the draft, and then the positions where you feel like you are not as good at, you get free agents, and the free agents in college football is going to be the portal. I've said multiple times, I think the portal, you've got to get guys that have been at a college program for 2 to 3 years at the lines of scrimmage. You've got to be able to get depth at specifically the defensive line. Because you're going to lose a couple of guys, and that's hard to replace. It's very hard to rely on an 18, 19-year-old straight out of high school, even if he's been in a college program for 1 year, as compared to a guy that's been in a college weight room, been in college class, knows what the college lifestyle is like for 3 to 4 years now. Um, I think that's the route that I would go. And I think that Florida should do that. And then obviously you get a big time receiver. I don't know the guy's name. There's a big time guy from Florida International that's making a lot of headway, and there's a couple other guys out there. You probably get one of those guys. But other than that, yeah, you're going to be relying heavily on this high school recruiting class.
Texas A&M just had an offensive tackle enter the portal yesterday that started 8 games for them. And Florida's going to need – I personally believe that Florida most likely – I'd have to know a little more on how guys like Fletcher Westphal and a couple other recruits that have been on campus for a year or two now are doing. But I would have to imagine that they're going to need – Florida's going to need a right tackle, if I had to guess, from the portal that's going to start for them next year. And a couple other guys, you know, the balance between portal and transfer portal and high school guys, I think you nailed it, Dylan. It's the way that the best programs in the country are having success with it, and the way that I expect Florida to try to have success with it. M. Stafford keeps talking about Cormani McLean leaving UF. I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything either.
I don't know why Cormani McLean would leave UF. He played a decent amount after some of the injuries in the middle of the season, hasn't played as much as of late. I think part of that is probably just because Triquez Bridges really came on as a reliable cornerback 2 option across from Dijon Johnson, who really solidified himself as a reliable cornerback 1 option with Devin Moore and Jason Marshall getting injured. And I think, it was kind of interesting late in the game against Florida State. You saw Jameer Grimsley go in. And he got some playing time who I haven't seen all year. And who knows? Yeah, I'm sorry. I get it. You're just asking. And we're just kind of talking through it. I think next year, you got a lot of those young guys. Kind of to bring it back to the whole portal high school conversation. DBs are clearly a position where they've done well enough in the high school, and I guess Bridges was through the portal, and Asa Turner was at the beginning of the year, but he never really played. And I'm pretty sure he's done. I think he was a senior. But that's an example of kind of what you're talking about, Dylan. Like, they've built through the draft in the DB room, which is the high school, right? Like, you've got Dijon Johnson in that room. You've got, I guess Jameer Grimsley was transfer portal, but he was a young guy. You'll have Cormani McLean with the portal. You'll have Jakeem Jackson hopefully back next season if he doesn't transfer. You'll have Jordan Castell back there next year. Bryce Thornton, some of these guys. Aaron Gates will be back. So you've got guys now in that room that have been in this room for at least a year, some of them more. And then you're supplementing them with even more guys behind them, right? So that's not a room I think they're going to have to hit the portal super heavy on. I think they'll have more young guys they feel good about developing. Will Harris clearly did a great job in that room this year. I think linebacker is another good example. You had Pup Howard as a transfer, but besides that, I mean, Shamar James, Jack Piper playing really well, and some of these other linebackers, I think you're going to be fine next year with what you got. Miles Graham. I think right tackle, Dylan, is a position I have circled. And Clayton says Grimsley was a recruit that immediately transferred from Bama after Saban retired, basically a recruit from yeah, exactly. Clayton, exactly. That's pretty much what I'm saying. Cormani, same thing. Cormani's at a place for 1 year, transfers, whatever. Dylan, I've got right tackle circled. I've got one, maybe 2 wide receivers circled, and defensive tackle circled as the big positions that I think Florida's going to need to hit the transfer portal with.
Yeah, I think we'll know pretty early what Florida thinks of their roster. By what's today, Tuesday? I would say by next Friday you'll have a true test of what you think what Florida values, because I think the main guys that want to come to this program that are in the portal right now, um, they're going to be they're giving me the ones I think that are going to commit early. So, Florida's class right now, like Boone has already hit the portal, and there's been a couple other guys here and there. No guys that are really that important. No, really
Mhm.
guys that really take your breath away and go, dang, like we really missed out on him. He's probably going to go elsewhere. Like Eugene Wilson, for example. Like if he were to hit the portal, that'd be a big blow. Not saying that he won't. Remember ETN last year? It was weird. Like the season ended, and he waited like an entire week before he put his name in the portal. I'm sure NIL had to play a factor with that. But I
And
don't,
the Gators doing everything they could to keep him.
yeah. I don't get the sense that a lot of main guys in this class or on Florida's team right now are going to hit the portal. So yeah, and Andy Jean was the other one that I couldn't think of that's hitting the portal from the Gators. I I just lost my train of thought. Yeah,
Yeah,
the portal.
I really thought Gene and Mizell together were going to
Yeah,
develop into what you could feel like would be two of the next great wide receivers at Florida. Obviously, you saw Mizell hit the field a decent amount this year and make some plays in some big games. You go back to the Georgia game. I mean, cooked Georgia secondary, got behind him, and Lagway hit him dead in the hands in the end zone before he got injured. And played well in some other games as well. And I think he's going to be a guy Florida's going to lean on a lot moving forward. Back to the high school versus portal example, you need more Aiden Mizells than transfer portal guys. And the transfer portal guys you just supplement, to your point.
yeah. I think to my point, I was saying I think by the first week of the portal, and you have 3 weeks in the transfer portal window, I think you're going to know what Florida values, where they need improvement at, in what position, and where they feel good at it. If they're not addressing the need, I think in that first week and a half of the transfer portal, I think it's a position where that Florida feels like they're pretty good at. So we'll see. This to me is one of the more exciting times. I know. You wait for the season to get here, and the season comes within a blink of an eye. I mean, it felt like 2 weeks ago that Florida Miami played, and we had our heads down after walking out of the swamp. And now it's so much unknown, and the momentum, man, is just through the roof. You have Florida State where they've got two new coordinators. You have no idea where their program's headed. I mean, if you're Mike Norvell, you have no idea what to do with your roster. Where do you even start? Because there's just, I mean, this is a Florida State team that had 8 fumbles
Well, you know where to start.
a couple of days ago.
The place to start is to rip Florida's flag out of the midfield, and make sure they don't do that, because no one does that at Florida State.
Well,
We'll lose
he
by
tossed
20
it, so
and lose all the recruits, but God forbid you plant a flag.
well, I mean, you got to set the line somewhere, and he set it at the flag.
Mm-hmm.
Not with his turnovers. Really had 9 fumbles because he tossed that flag. He didn't tuck it.
It wasn't
So
high and tight.
yeah, so you have Florida State. Miami has lost 2 of their last 3. Drake Stubby, I think it was on Stadium and Gale, and he went on Hacker Show last night. He didn't like where Miami was at the moment, and didn't like
He
with
said
a
on Stadium Gale that the Syracuse game was the last straw for him, and he felt
yeah
like he'd be developed better and he'd be in a better position in Florida. That's
yeah.
pretty
So
crazy for a recruit to be willing to say 2 days before signing day.
yeah, so I mean, you have Florida State that's not doing well. You got Miami that, if you look, I look at the gambling odds because everybody looks at the TV show tonight and Sunday for the rankings to come out. I still think Miami finds a way to make the playoff. If they do, they'll barely do it, and I think they'll get pounced in the first round just because their defense is any good. So I mean, it's hard to say that Miami's on a downturn when if they do make the playoff, but if they don't, that's a tough pill to swallow when you started the season, whatever it was, 10-0, 9-0. And then Georgia's still the big bad bully that's within close proximity of Florida, but they're not the big bad bully as they were the previous 3 years. So I mean, the trend is definitely going up, and we'll see these next couple of games, or these next couple of days, what Florida's been going to be able to do to get guys in high school or college, man.
Yeah, just continue to build the roster. Bill Napier, this is one of the first things he said when he took the job. back a couple years ago that we're in a talent acquisition business. And he hit the nail on the head when he said that. And he's shown the ability that when there is positive momentum for his program, that guy can close deals. So we can all say everything we want about Napier, that he needs an OC. I think he needs an OC as well. Apologies, my phone fell. I believe he needs an OC as well. And there's still some game day stuff I don't love. I don't love how he manages timeouts. I don't love how he manages last minute or two going into halftime. I don't love how he handles just the middle eight in general. I feel like he should finish halves better and start second halves better. And I think an OC would help him with a lot of that, the special teams. So we've all talked. This is stuff we've all talked about throughout the year. And I'm not breaking news to anybody. This is where Billy Napier shines. Talent acquisition. And for them to be able to generate this much momentum, this is the most momentum they've had since he took the job, and go on this ridiculous recruiting tirade he's gone on and just flip everybody. And you have to imagine, like we've been talking about, that they're going to still hit the transfer portal pretty hard, particularly in positions they really need it. That they need to have – they need to kick off the season, Dylan, in 2025 where you're feeling like they have a roster that genuinely can beat anybody. And I know Billy Napier has been saying that the last couple of weeks after games, and he, he's been free to say that because he's beaten some good teams, right? Between not Florida State, between LSU and Ole Miss. It was fair for him to say we feel like we can beat anybody right now, and that needs to continue, and that case needs to be even stronger when next year kicks off. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, I'd agree with the same. I got to roll and get out of here. We'll give you all a show. I don't know what Graham's schedule looks like. I'd like to do a show Friday, some point in the afternoon after signing class is mostly done. That way we give everybody a recap of what signing day is done, and then and we'll go from there. Early signing day, Wednesday through Friday. It'll wrap up Friday afternoon. We'll know what they got, and it'll be good, man. Check us out on the 1010XL social channels on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. And that's the easiest way to catch us, man. So until then,
Dylan,
that's
if
all I
Billy
got.
Napier calls you up and asks you to get a couple reps in at safety, what are you telling him?
I'll tell him how much am I getting paid, and then I'll say yes. Oh, no, my days are done. My days are
I'll
done,
take a couple
bro.
reps as slot receiver.
Dude, I run 50 yards in practice, and I'm like dead. Like I'm gasping for air. My asthma is kicking in. Like
Whose fault is that, man?
probably mine because I don't work out or none of that junk.
You got to get your ass in the gym, bro.
Yeah. No.
We expect these
Negative.
recruits to be in tip-top shape, and you can't do it yourself.
Yeah, well, when I was 18, that's when I'd have done that. Whatever. I'm an old ass man. I'm about to be 27 years old.
Realistic last thing, Dylan. You think Gators finish? Where do you think they what ranking do you think they finish at in high school when early signing day is done? Just quick prediction.
8th, 9th.
I think 9th as well.
Yeah. So.
I say 9th. I think they get one or two more guys. I tend to believe they're going to keep everybody in their class. I think if they had lost some of these games to end the season, I think Deshaun Montgomery might be gone or a couple other guys, but I think they're going to stay. They flip one or two more guys, and a couple other teams are going to sign guys as well. So I think 9th is the spot they land.
Yeah. All right. We'll see y'all, and talk to y'all later this week.